there, this is Jackie from the Pod Canberra. I am here today to talk to you about Class 10A and Class 1 structures. So when you're ready or looking at building a granny flat, you want to find out what the builder or the granny flat company is proposing to class your structure as. Because there's different rules and regulations to what you need to comply with, and also different comfortability regulations. So a Class 10A structure is more like a garage and a shed, and a Class 1A structure is really a full dwelling, a house, fully gyprock, lined, insulated, energy efficient, and it's a livable structure. A Class 10 structure, you cannot live in it. You cannot rent it out. You cannot, you can make it into a gym, yes, but you cannot actually have anyone sleeping in that dwelling. So you want to make sure that when you're talking to people, you know what a Class 10A structure is in comparison to a 1A. Sometimes they'll talk about getting it classified as a studio. Sometimes if it's a studio that it's a Class 10A structure, you can't actually live in it. So it'll actually be an illegal structure if you fitted it out like a home or like a room. And then obviously Class 1A is all the bells and whistles. So you've got, as I mentioned, the lined and the insulated, and it's you're able to live in it. There is potentially different, approval side of things. So as a Class 10A structure, you can just go through a certifier, which means that he or she will do the DA and the BA all in one, and lodge that also to the government. So they've at least got something on record. Where a 1A structure, usually, unless it's sometimes an extension or it depends what it's classed as, but usually needs to be put through as a DA through the council, either your local council or what we used to have ACPLA here. It's now called something else that has a really, really long word, Environmental Planning Directorate, something. And then you get the certifier to do the building approval, like the BA. So ultimately, you want to make sure that wherever you're getting your information from is, one, correct. Make sure you double check it, and also see what you're getting, because you might be like, yes, I'm getting a granny flat, and yes, it might be cheap. It's fantastic. It's a Class 10A structure. Okay, so you can't really live in it. Okay, is it lined? Is it insulated? Are there double glazing windows? What is included? And how is it going to affect potentially the value of the property that it sits on? So that's something that you want to look at. Obviously, a Class 1A is looked on I believe more favorably than if you just put a shed out there. So if you put a shed in the back, you might line it. Yes, that's awesome, but it's still only a shed and can only be used for a shed. Where if you put a Class 1A structure up there, it can be a secondary residence, it can be a dwelling. You could have it rented out. You could have separate electricity meters. You could have 2 tenants on one block. So there are lots of different options, which also can increase the value of the property. So I really just wanted to give you a very quick update from questions that I have received from clients going, I've been told from this person I can just class it as a studio and then put everything in later, which is possible. You can bypass rules and do things later without the government knowing. I know people that have done that, but the problem with that is, and you really need to know this, if you bypass rules and start doing dodgy things, your insurance won't cover you. So if you're spending 100 or 150 grand or 300 grand on a secondary residence or on a studio that is non-compliant, hence it had to be classed as a studio, and you start putting in kitchen with cooking facilities, something goes wrong with the oven, with the cooktop, it burns down, there goes your 150 or 300 grand. So because the insurance company will not insure you for a dwelling and if once they go to the cause of, let's say, the fire or the issue, and it's not classed to have that in it, you can potentially be held liable, and you also won't get the insurance for that. So it's quite a big risk if you're wanting to do the dodgy things. So we obviously don't encourage that. We don't want that. If you're going to do a Class 10A structure And if you're going to put in a studio, it would be like an art studio or a gym or a garage or a shed, like a workshop. It's not something to sleep in, and not something that someone can dwell in. A Class 1A is definitely a dwelling, and then it can be approved as such and then also added to the property as such. Alrighty, well, that was just a quick update. Happy Friday, and I hope you all have a lovely weekend and rest of your day or week or whenever you're listening to this. And all the best. I will chat to you soon. This is Jackie from the Pod Canberra.